What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris, this is 4K Motoring, and today we're going to do a very simple yet I think very important update to our 2022 Ducati Multistrada V4S. As I've mentioned in past videos, the back of this bike is something I am very displeased about from Ducati, and a lot of manufacturers are doing this, so I don't blame Ducati specifically, but they're definitely a huge offender in that the back of the bike as they've made it is all matte black plastic. Now, personally, I'm aware of the dangers of riding motorcycles, and one of those specifically, especially as we start approaching the conversations of lane filtering and stuff like that, is rear end collisions. Motorcycles not being noticed from the rear and being hit by vehicles which weigh much more and cause a lot of damage. Ducati has done everything they can in their power to make sure this vehicle is invisible to cars coming up from the rear. The only thing you really have from the factory is a small reflector under the license plate itself, and this little running light, brake light that's tucked up under this bag that you have to be at the right angle to see. Aside from that, this is all black plastic, absorb light, reflect nothing, really doesn't show that a motorcycle's in front of you. That's what we're gonna fix today. I've got some very cheap products from Amazon that's gonna make a huge difference to this bike. Let's go ahead and get it started. So thanks to Amazon, what I've got is this set of Scotch-Brite black reflective tape, and I've got some red reflective tape that's gonna go on top of it. What I'm going to end up doing, as I've already kind of started, I'll give you guys a good demonstration of what this stuff does, but when light is reflected directly to this turns from black to a very bright white. I mean, headlights at night, this thing lights up like nothing else. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace pretty much all of the visible area on the back of this bike with this Scotch-Brite stuff. Really doesn't change the bike a whole lot during the daytime, but at nighttime it'll make it absolutely light up. Once I have the black Scotch-Brite covering most of the visible rearward black plastic on the bike, at least on the bags. I don't know if I'm going to do any on the bike itself, but definitely on the bags. I'm going to go ahead and use this reflective red tape to come up with some sort of pattern on the rear, basically so it's visible during the daytime as well, and to provide a little bit of contrast at night. Hopefully this will keep it looking somewhat visually appealing from the rear, but also easily noticed as a vehicle during the day and at night that there's a vehicle in front of you, hopefully to avoid getting hit by a car. Now, both of these items can be purchased on Amazon at a very low cost, so you can pretty much cover the whole thing with very minimal expense. Make sure you clean ahead of time. And what I've done, I've taken just a little bit of printer paper and I'm making templates for each piece that I need to cut out. That way I cut them and they're very easily applied. Hopefully I don't need the heat gun or anything fancy, but I do have all that stuff that I use for my vinyl installation on this bike. May be helpful. Again, I'll leave links to all that right down below here. I've already got a jump start on the template making, but basically what I've done, I've started on this side that's going to be the most complicated because it's got this weird radius here and a couple different curves. What I've basically started with is a piece roughly folded open and a little bit extra. This was the size of one of the sheets of reflective Scotch-Brite, and what I did was kind of follow along this line here and make a template for how I want this particular sheet to go. And I was able to translate that pretty easily to the piece of Scotch-Brite, which I was then able to translate pretty easily to this piece of Scotch-Brite, which should fit right exactly in that spot, and that should be a good first step. I'll get this saddlebag covered, this left side bag, and this one's gonna be the most complicated. It's gonna use the less material, but it will be more complicated, so I'll do that one first. I'll get it completely covered with the Scotch-Brite before I start adding the red stripes, just so you guys can kind of see what this stuff does and how impressive it really is. So guys, as I expected, this was definitely the more difficult side with the curves, but it was very doable. Like I said, using just some printer paper, just some blank paper as templates, it was very easy to cut these sheets. They're pretty wide sheets, they cover a larger area. It was very easy to do this and cover the whole space. A heat gun was helpful. I did use most of the vinyl kit that I got. Again, I'll put the link to all that stuff down below if you guys are interested. It really helps with all these vinyl installations. But here is the final product on this side, and as you can see to this side over here, it has not been done yet. You can see the difference. It really doesn't jump out at you during the day. It's a little bit shinier, but otherwise it looks pretty stock. So if you're going for a stock look, this may be a good option for you. Let me show you what happens when I turn off the lights. Okay, I know it's kind of light in the garage, but at least the back of the bike is pretty dark. This is what it looks like at night when you're approaching the bike. It is very dark. But now as we shine a flashlight, See how much that lights up? Compared to the other saddlebag, the top case that reflect no lights, that is huge, the amount of light that reflects. So we'll get to the other side and see how it looks overall and see if we need to add the red stripes as well. Okay, something I realized I didn't do when I did my vinyl install was show you guys exactly how to put this on. So I'll give you just kind of a brief overview on the easy part here. These Scotch-Brite strips are pretty big. So in measuring them, they do cover a lot of area. There are even some bigger than this you can get. So I'm going to take a fixed reference point, this seam in the saddlebag. I'm going to make sure I have just a little bit of overlap on this side. And I'm going to go basically to where I want to stop and make sure this is a good piece to cover. To measure and to pattern, like I said, I'm using a piece of just notebook or printer paper just to make sure I have the overall length that I want correct. I can just line it up and cut off the excess. So I'll go ahead, quickly trim this. This end will be hidden in the bike, so it's not super critical that it is absolutely perfect. But you want to try and make it as clean as possible. We will again test fit to make sure this piece does fit right where we want it to. And now that this is a nice flat job, we're going to go ahead and spray. This is just water with a 1/4 teaspoon of dish soap mixed in with it. We're going to kind of wet our working area here. We're going to peel our Scotch-Brite off. Even easier, we're going to spray the back of the Scotch-Brite as well. And we're going to go ahead and just line it up and see, since I got that soap on there, it is sliding a little bit so I can get it exactly where I want it to. We're going to index this main flat part. That's where we want to really line up well, and the rest will kind of move with it. We do have a squeegee, again, as part of that vinyl install kit that we will go ahead and utilize here. Make sure this seam is good. We want to squeeze. And that is installed. As we start getting towards the curve, you may want to cut into smaller pieces so you work in smaller sections. That way you don't have a lot of bunching and binding. You may get a couple seams like this, but I think overall this looks a whole lot better than bunched up or creased pieces of vinyl. So it really was that easy, a little tedious, but nothing too difficult about the installation. Here is the bike, and with the lights on, it doesn't look a whole lot different than it did before. It's not really calling a lot of attention to itself. I've not done the cross pattern or anything else to it. I've just put the Scotch-Brite black tape on it, and I think that looks pretty good. It's pretty low profile during the day, which I still am a little iffy about. I'll probably end up doing a little bit more visible striping on it, but for right now, I'm pretty happy with that, and I'll show you with the lights off what it looks like. Still pretty dark, pretty black, but with a little bit of light, you can see how it illuminates itself and becomes very visible. Should make night riding a lot safer. Still doesn't do a lot for us during the day. We'll have to figure something out for that. But at night, I really like the way this looks. So guys, let me know what you think about this. I think it looks pretty good. It's pretty subtle, pretty subdued, and then it lights up pretty well at night. Like I said, it doesn't do a whole lot for the daytime visibility. I'll see how I feel about it after riding a few times. Might have some people ride behind me just to kind of see if it makes any difference. And then we'll see if we need to go farther with it. But so far, it's a good first step. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys are doing anything for rearward visibility, I'd love to hear what you guys have. If there's a specific product or type of product you like to use for the back. I really like this. Like I said, I'll leave a link down in the description below that'll have this stuff. It's very cheap on Amazon, very easy to apply, and it does make a big difference on these bikes. Ducati, if you're listening, please stop putting black plastic on the back of these bikes. It is not visible, it makes them practically invisible, and it's quite dangerous. Hopefully we'll give this a little time to test out, see how it works out, see how we like it, and see if we need to move on to more. As always, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below, make sure you like this video, and we'll see you next time here at 4K Motoring.